You're watching Best Press Media, and I'm Emily Best. This segment was filmed on Thursday, April 3rd at the University of British Columbia on the unceded territory of the Musqueam people. UBC students, staff, and faculty have launched a campaign to combat anti-Palestinian racism on campus. This comes just 5 days after the end of an almost 2-week-long hunger strike where students, staff, and faculty starved themselves for 12 days straight. To highlight the extent to which the UBC administration and Board of Governors has refused to divest from the myriad of companies they are currently invested in that profit from weapons sales and crimes against humanity. The press conference included statements from students as well as faculty and staff across both UBC Vancouver and Okanagan campuses expressing their extreme disappointment at the lack of response by the administration and UBC Board of Governors. One of the hunger strikers, who goes by pseudonym May, who I've had the chance to speak with throughout the strike, was one of several speakers to detail the new platform and the reasoning behind it. May is a postgraduate student at UBC.
We began this hunger strike because UBC refuses to listen. For 500 days, we have written letters, held protests, organized encampments, signed petitions. Almost 8,000 students voted to demand divestment. Hundreds shut down the UBC bus loop in the rain. Faculty, staff, and unions stood with us. And what have the administration done? Nothing. Worse than nothing. They have ignored us, barred us from meetings, and continued investing in the very companies that arm this genocide.
UBC remains invested in 13 companies on the UN illegal settlement list, as well as 17 manufacturing and military technologies companies. Today, on the day this article is being published, marks the 552nd day of genocide in Gaza.
The administration wants us to believe that this isn't happening. They want us to look away. Because the victims are brown, because the killers are allies, because they've labeled an entire people terrorists to justify their slaughter.
Last week, images of journalists being burned alive after a targeted drone strike on Al-Aqsa Martyrs Hospital in the middle of the night surfaced. The tents in the compound were struck with fire, burning at least 4 people alive and wounding over 40 others, who will likely succumb to their burn wounds given the intensity of the fire and lack of access to healthcare or running water. With well over 50,000 civilians in Gaza reported martyred since October 8, 2023, this number we know to be in the hundreds of thousands given the limitations of reporting capacity and the absence of infrastructure, a functioning medical system, and the ability to retrieve bodies that have been crushed under buildings or maimed by modern weapons. This has been deemed the deadliest conflict for journalists ever recorded, with more journalists killed in Gaza than in both world wars, Vietnam, Yugoslavia, and Afghanistan combined. Israel's onslaught of Gaza has killed 232 journalists to date since October of 2023, which is an average of 13 per month, according to the Watson Institute for International Public Affairs Costs of War project. A number of UBC's faculty and emeritus professors have expressed support for the students in their strike and the actions they have taken to put pressure on the university administration and Board of Governors to divest from Israeli apartheid and genocide. Dr. John Rusa is a professor at the Department of History and the director at the Center for Southeast Asia Research at UBC's School of Public Policy and Global Affairs.
And they have done all of this without any thought of their own personal career advancement. They have selflessly taken the time for this kind of activism. We all know in this political climate the risk that this activism carries, and they have been courageous in taking these risks. They deserve to be heard. Their demands are legitimate.
This is what UBC alumnus and staff member Nathan Harrington was wearing the day he was detained without charge by RCMP on campus while he was working. On February 14th, 2025, UBC Vancouver campus hosted the Invictus Games, which are an international multi-sporting event for wounded and disabled war veterans. While on the surface, this may sound like a progressive event to amplify those with disabilities, it serves another function in the sphere of international public relations and raises legal concerns surrounding the hosting of known war criminals affiliated with the Israeli occupation forces who are currently violating international law and committing genocide against Palestinians. Additionally, the True Patriot Love Foundation, which is a registered Canadian charity who under Canadian tax law is forbidden from funding any foreign military. Harrington works as an international student recruiter and advisor for UBC. He was arrested near UBC's Aquatic Center that day, where the Invictus Games were being held, by two RCMP officers while documenting the activities nearby, which was a part of his assigned job duties that day. He needed to report back to student tour guides about what they could expect and where tours would be able to take place for prospective students. A letter containing over 1,600 UBC students, faculty, staff, alumni, and community members' signatures calling on the university to cancel their agreement to host the Invictus Games was delivered to President Bacon on February 3rd and received no comment from the administration beyond confirmation that they had received the letters. On that day, the Aquatic Center was heavily militarized by RCMP armed with guns, knives, dogs, and surveillance equipment. Additionally, numerous reports of harassment, surveillance, pat-downs of UBC community members by these law enforcement officials surfaced from this week. On February 12th, the journalists at UBC press offices were pressured by RCMP to reveal confidential sources for a story that covered the delivery of the signed letters to President Bacon.
There were police everywhere, and our student tour guides needed to be briefed and informed on what to expect. As I was walking away from the Aquatic Center, a man grabbed me. He had a gun. He took my stuff. More men with guns gathered around me. He bound my arms behind my back. He didn't tell me why. He touched me all over my body. He didn't ask. He pushed me to walk in a different direction than I wanted to walk. He didn't tell me where. He locked me in a van. He didn't tell me for how long. I sat in that van for over 30 minutes, and then I was let go. I believe I was targeted because I was wearing a keffiyeh. This incident is a textbook example of how anti-Palestinian racism can and will impact all of us, including non-Palestinian. Is that recording?
Yeah.
I'm a UBC staff member and alumni. I was walking by the Aquatic Center on February 14th, wearing the keffiyeh, filming, saying nothing, and I've been detained for mischief. I'm arriving for work today.
Alright, so we get back.
For anyone who's wondering, I'm a UBC staff member. I was walking by the UBC Aquatic Center wearing a keffiyeh, and I've been detained for mischief. For those of you arriving to campus today, I'm a UBC staff member. I was walking next to the UBC Aquatic Center wearing a keffiyeh, and I've been detained for mischief. I said nothing. I walked by police officers and have been detained for mischief. I'm a UBC staff member and alumni. I arrived to campus to go to work, and I've been detained for mischief for wearing a keffiyeh. I was harassed on campus by armed state agents, and the university hasn't said anything to support me.
Harrington's arrest came shortly before the arrest of Mahmoud Khalil, a Palestinian Columbia graduate student who was an American citizen with a green card before it was revoked and has been in an ICE detention facility since March 8th without any charges laid against him. Mamadou Tal, a doctoral candidate at Cornell University, recently self-deported himself to avoid the same fate for his advocacy work on campus. Rumeysa Öztürk is another student who was detained in March for co-authoring an op-ed that was critical of Tufts University, where she is a PhD student. She was transferred to an ICE detention facility in Louisiana and remains there as of April 11th, despite experiencing health complications due to her asthma. And like Khalil, she has not been charged with or found guilty of anything unlawful at this time. Khalil was taken by plainclothed agents from his apartment lobby into an unmarked van after arriving home from an iftar dinner with his pregnant wife. She is expected to give birth any day now. Unlawful detentions are happening all over, with anti-Palestinian racism reaching peak levels on campuses worldwide amidst the ongoing genocide. For more information about this platform launched by UBC students, staff, faculty, and alumni, and how to report an incident, go to apr-on-campus.org.
I wish the university would support me in the way this community has supported me.
You're watching Best Press Media, and I'm Emily Best.